What's going on, guys? Snake Eyes here, playing some more Dark Souls 2, and we're going to be doing another weapon look back. Now, if you don't know what a weapon look back is, pretty much what it's going to be is me looking back on a lot of the different weapons that I used to showcase. Some of my earlier showcases didn't include PvP, so basically what I'm going to do now is kind of reuse them, take them out on PvP, and just all in all look back and see if my thoughts have changed or if they've stayed the same. And this one's actually viewer requested. The weapon we're going to be looking back at today is the Gyrm Greataxe. Now, if you want to know all the details about the Gyrm Greataxe and where to get it and all that, I'll leave an annotation in the video so that way you guys can check it out. For the most part, I'm just going to be covering PvP based stuff. And in my last video, when I was talking about this weapon, I didn't really have a lot of good things to say. I had said that it would probably make a good troll weapon for PvP, and being that I never took it out up until this point, I really didn't know. And then all in all, in my opinion, I had kind of just wrote it off and I didn't really take it very seriously. Now I've kind of changed my mind to that, being that I had used it for a good little bit. At first I had kind of a rough start, but as the, I guess, session kind of just went on, I really had a good time with this weapon. My wins were becoming a lot more consistent, they were starting to happen a lot more, and overall I was actually really satisfied at how good this weapon is when you get to learn how to use it. Now, I'll cover the cons real quick because there are two cons that are just kind of in your face and you really can't ignore. One of them being that the range on the weapon is really small, so you kind of have to get in there if you really want to get a hit. The second is that the attacks are really slow, and that's to be expected since it's a strength weapon and it's a pretty heavy weapon. But when you combine that with the fact that the range isn't that great, if you kind of go in there and just try to, I guess, mash R1 or just kind of swing, you're going to end up being pretty disappointed at the fact that your enemy is going to just be rolling around you, kind of countering your attacks and all that stuff. And that's kind of something that you gotta have to learn. And then when you start learning how to use this weapon, those aren't really even cons anymore, because getting up close and personal with this weapon is something that you actually really want to do. One of the things that I actually found that was, I guess, better for me is the fact that I was running around without lock-on. Some of these beginning fights you're going to see me using nothing but lock-on, but after I started playing with it, I realized that running around without lock-on is actually pretty good, mainly because if you're locked onto your enemy and you hit R1, from there, after he starts the initial swing, you can't control where it's gonna go. So if your enemy rolls out the way, you're gonna be pretty much hitting air. That's something that's not really good. But without lock-on, you can pretty much control your attack a lot better. Now that kind of plays into the fact that you're gonna have to start predicting where they're gonna be going. But most people kind of roll towards you. So now you just kind of have to figure out if they're going to roll straight at you or to the left or right of you. And depending at their angles, that's kind of, I guess, something that you can start predicting more and more often as you keep playing. And then when I started doing without lock-on, I was actually really surprised at the attacks that I was landing. One thing that I wouldn't do while you're locked on, though, is, that was my phone. One thing that I wouldn't do while you're locked on is the downward attacks, because the downward attacks you kind of have to get the person, you have to hit them, and with the horizontal attacks like the rolling attack and the R1s and all that, it kind of hits a wide area, so you don't really have to worry too much about that. And like I said, I really recommend just doing the rolling attacks or pretty much any horizontal without being locked on. And if you're going to go for a downward attack, then I do recommend that you do lock on, because if you miss those, the recover time is actually a little slow, and that's something that I really wouldn't mess around too much with. Another pro that I ended up realizing as I was playing is that this weapon actually does damage to whatever it hits. Now, whether that be the actual person or the person's shield, I noticed that I was actually really guard breaking a lot of these people, and it wasn't just with the small shields and the medium shields. It was actually with the great shields as well, and that's kind of good, because people with great shields, they tend to kind of turtle, or they, I guess, have the assumption that they can block whatever. But with this weapon, I was actually really surprised at how often I was guard breaking pretty much everybody. Now, obviously you're going to get the guard break a lot more easier for people with small shields and medium shields, but it is possible with the great shields, and that's kind of something that you want to think about. I ended up just rethinking my strategy, and usually when people hold up their shields against me, I either try to go for the shield break or I just roll away. With this weapon, I actually wasn't afraid to go in there and start swinging, because eventually you're going to break the guard and you're going to go in there and you get the critical hit. And then if you get a critical hit with this weapon, it's pretty much going to one-shot the person depending on the health that they're having. All in all, I was actually really surprised at how well this weapon can actually end fights really quick. There's been a lot of fights where it didn't really last past the first critical hit, and if it did, it kind of intimidated them to the fact that they really didn't want to get close to me anymore. And if you stay aggressive with this weapon, then you really have nothing else to worry about. Another thing that I found out with this weapon is that it actually has a 3-hit stun lock combo. Most of these weapons only have 2, and the fact that this one has 3 is actually not too bad, considering the fact that it's actually a little difficult to hit with. So usually I recommend people going in for 2 hits, but if you're in real close range of the enemy, I say screw it and go for the 3. Conserve your stamina though, because with people who are a little bit more quicker, they're going to be able to go in and kind of, I guess, get their counter hits, and if you're in the negative with your stamina, it's going to be really hard to roll out of the attack. So that's kind of something that you have to watch out for. Another thing that you have to watch out for is people who are, I guess, a little bit more agile. I fought people with I guess dual fists, and one thing that you really have to do with this weapon is be patient with it. The attacks on it are really slow, and with people who are, I guess, going in and out and really not giving you a whole lot of time, you have to learn how to be patient. You have to learn to pretty much predict when they're going to come in, and you have to really strike before they come in, because if you try to strike as soon as they're right close to you, they can either roll out and just, you know, make you miss, or they can knock you out before you even get the hit done. So you kind of have to start learning how to predict when people are going to come in close, and then when you do, you can go ahead and land that 3-hit combo. And more than likely, people who are really quick are wearing some medium to light armor, so if that's the case, then those 3-hit combos would pretty much end the fight. But if not, then it'll get them really close and kind of getting them thinking twice before they try to do that again. All in all, looking back at this weapon, my opinions have pretty much changed with it. I actually really like it. It's something that I will use. I love the fact that it ends fights really quick. If you get those critical hits in, you can pretty much guarantee your win. There was one fight that I had was actually pretty satisfying, and it was a really long fight where I was fighting somebody with pretty much all Havels, and I think like the Gyrm helmet and all that. I wasn't hitting very much in the beginning. I was hitting something like 80 per hit, and it kind of goes to show that if you learn how to use this weapon pretty good, you can win any fight. Granted, this guy was using a scythe, and that's probably the main reason why I won, because his moveset was just as limited as mine. But it kind of goes to show that even though this weapon isn't the greatest and it doesn't have that much variety in the moveset, if you use it right, you can still get the win. And if you play patiently, anything can really happen with this weapon. You can actually be really good and really effective with this weapon. And like I said, all in all, my opinions have changed on it. I didn't think it was going to be the greatest. I thought it was going to be a troll weapon, just something to kind of mess with people with. And you know, taking it out myself, actually spending time with it, learning different, I guess, styles of play. That no lock on was something that I've always wanted to learn, because it's actually really useful with certain weapons, and I've come to learn that it's actually really useful with this weapon. The no lock on was a style that I've actually want to learn how to play and fool around with, and being that I was able to get some practice with that with this weapon was actually really satisfying. And all in all, I think it's actually a really good weapon. I do recommend it for people who are running a strength build to try it out. And pretty much that's gonna wrap it up. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't already. Pick this weapon up, let me know how it goes, and until next time, take care.